DoooD, spelled D-O-O-O-D, the story of emerging savior, written by Shelton Runner Singh. Story 1. Drones vs. Speed Violators. It was Ohio Highway about 10 miles from the Cleveland Hopkins Airport. Two cars were recklessly trying to overtake each other by swerving down the road, changing lanes haphazardly, cutting each other off and even switching between the side shoulder and the left lane, without having any concern for safety of the others. This erratic act had been going on for over 15 minutes, until the cars were confronted by two drones. The two drones came from nowhere on a parallel path until they separated and dropped down to the windscreen heights of the two cars. While keeping up with the speeds of the cars, the drones were hovering about 3 feet in front of the windscreens, with attacking actions mimicking angry killer bees. The buzzing noises of the drones heightened the ferocious action. The sudden appearance of the drones surprised the two idiots and the others who were in the nearby vehicles. Both drivers stopped their neurotic behavior and slowed down rapidly, relieving the safety concerns of the others who were forced to be in the situation. With the buzzing sounds and aggression, the drones kept on interfering with the two cars, until the drivers dropped the speeds to the normal speed limit on the highway. The way the drones moved around the cars was amazingly extraordinary. A driver on an adjacent car observed the frightened red faces of the two idiots. These two knew that the drones were threatening them to reduce the speeds and also perhaps were trying to convey a deeper message. If they had not slowed down, they understood their windscreens would be shattered to smithereens from the impact. They thought the drones were sent by the police, though they didn't see any marking on the drones to indicate that. The two drivers and the others, who saw the drones, had never heard anything about the use of drones by the police in the past. After about 10 minutes, when the drones had the full control over the two cars, the drones flew away at lightning speed, just like the alien spacecrafts usually seen in movies. Many people who were driving on the other lanes, not far behind these two cars, saw this whole incident. They were freighted too. Everyone wondered where these two drones came from, and who was responsible for maneuvering them to that precision and finesse. The afternoon CNN News played a video clip of this incident, which was captured by a schoolboy who was traveling with his father to the airport. The father of the boy explained how recklessly the two cars were driven and having two near misses with his vehicle. In fact, the father had called 911 to report about the erratic driving after he had the second near miss. 911 operators had said that they'd look into it immediately, but the operator's tone of voice seemed to have said otherwise. But, just after the phone call, when the father saw the drones approaching the two cars, it made him think those were sent by the police because of his call. He said his son enjoyed all the action when the two drones started attacking the two cars. Being an RC plane enthusiastic, his son had his frame of mind to video record part of the action. The father said, the drones effectively forced the two drivers to slow down the cars, thankfully stopping a potential catastrophic accident with other vehicles. I saw the full event until the drones left our sight. Where did they go? Asked the interviewer. They disappeared at lightning speed to the east. He continued, I have seen many skilled RC plane hobbyists in the past, but I haven't seen anything like this. It was extraordinary. Whoever operated them must be a real expert. Did you get frightened? Of course, yes. The way those two hovered around was very threatening. Actually, my heart was pounding fast, as I was not sure how all that will end up. Really, it was just like an alien invasion, though I knew it was real. Was your son frightened? No, not at all. My son Niven really enjoyed all that, as he is quite used to similar environments with his experience of flying RC planes and video games that he plays all the time. Where is your son? He is busy at a video games parlor with his cousin who we picked up from the airport. Thank you. The video clip showed that the drones were quadprops, cargo delivery type, less than 30-inch diameter, typically used by companies like Amazon for small package deliveries, and not anything fancy or special. The video clip also showed the two drones taking turns, shifting from one car to the other in the act, as they were enjoying the actions themselves. There were no markings on the drones for any identification. The propellers were making usual propeller sounds that changed with the speeds, turns and the angles of flying. The video went viral on YouTube, while the Cleveland, Ohio Police Department wondered about the incident as they had no direct involvement with it. They were making high-level investigations involving the CIA to understand who could be responsible for this. The days passed by without any clues as to from where these two drones appeared and who really operated them. However, by the vehicle license plate detected from the video clip, both the speedsters were traced by the police and were subjected to questioning for their erratic behavior. The two drivers had no prior connection until they saw each other at the Strongsville police station. They realized they had been attending the same high school in Rocky River before they graduated a few years ago. During questioning, they explained the extent to which they got freighted from the drones and vouched to the police that they will never violate any road rules in the future. Most questions asked by the police were about the drones rather than the speeding violations and erratic driving they committed. The police ordered them to attend a day-long compulsory training course on road rules, before they were finally released with penalty points posted on their driving license records. A week after, Brian and Oliver, the two brothers who formed the Strongsville Radio-Controlled Flyers Club, were taken into custody for questioning by the CIA agents accompanied by Strongsville police. As part of the investigation, Brian and Oliver had to show them their wide range of RC planes and drones they had in their garage and basement. The investigators even looked at some of the video clips on flying their RC-controlled drones that the two brothers had recorded in the past. Brian and Oliver were very conversant with the legal requirements of unmanned aircraft flying, UAF. This was proven very well by the answers they provided for the questions asked by the investigators. Brian and Oliver were extremely skilled RC-UAF operators. They had several trophies for winning many RC-UAF competitions. The investigators checked the license they had for their hobby and noted the license numbers, as they still suspected that they could be the possible personnel responsible in flying the drones. However, on that particular time of day of the incident, they had been at the Strongsville Table Tennis Club, playing ping pong. Both of them have been regular table tennis players. According to their statement given to the investigators, they have never violated any aviation rules in flying their RC planes or drones in the past. They always had been in proper control in keeping the flying height to below 400 feet and having the crafts within the vicinity of their points of operation. They have never flown their drones close to any airports by strictly sticking to the words in the license regulations. Brian and Oliver were let go, though they were not out of suspicion of the CIA's investigators. 2 weeks later, it was in Texas, Freeway I-35, a similar incident was reported. Two drones have appeared and forced a single driver to cut down her speed. The effect of two drones on a single vehicle was more dramatic than the one in Ohio. But this time, according to the driver who was apprehended by the police later, said that one of the drones sprayed a narrow stream of red paint on her windscreen to write the words "cut down your speed." She too didn't see any identification markings on the drones, like in the incident in Ohio. 3 weeks later, a similar incident happened in the state of Michigan. There again 2 drones were involved and it was a speeding truck. The warning message was in writing on the windscreen as well as from the radio in the truck. The rock music the driver was listening to was stopped and changed to a rough male voice. The radio was adjusted to full volume automatically and it announced, "You are driving very fast. Either obey the road rules or get ready to face consequences." "What the hell is this?" was what the driver exclaimed instantly, before he realized it is a serious command that had to be obeyed immediately. He slammed the brake pedal to slow down the truck. In an interview he had with the media next day, he said he was certain the radio volume had been turned to the maximum by this mysterious force, because he had to reduce the volume manually to his normal listening level after the drone departed. In spite of his well-built physique, he seemed to have been thoroughly shocked and frightened by the incident. Thereafter, it didn't take long, there were reports of similar incidents happening in many states, all over in the United States. In some cases, instead of one or two, the drones have appeared in clusters. From where these came and who made these things happen was a mystery. Operation of the drones involving harassment of speeding drivers occurred in a strange pattern. One couldn't predict when or where it could occur. The publicity of these events given through the media and the talks around this topic presented by various experts made the public anticipate facing similar encounters with drones if they violated the speed limits when driving on highways. It really created some degree of fear among the public. But as always happens, fear was not a concern to some people. The teenagers who liked challenges purposely experimented by speeding their vehicle to see whether they would be subjected to the harassment of drones. They were not spared by the drones either. While some got caught by the police, there were some lucky ones who only encountered the drones. But they were not really lucky, as they were subjected to a different type of harsh punishment by the drones. The drones induced engine defects to their vehicles. Those victims had to tow their vehicles to repair garages, causing unnecessary heavy expense and needless inconvenience. It seemed to be, the purpose of the appearance of the mysterious drones was merely to control the speed violators and nothing else. What else the drones would do in the future was an uncertainty. The public was very suspicious that the drones could be an undisclosed secret strategic operation of the Federal Police Network. This is simply because, within a few months into the appearance of the drones, it had virtually brought everybody to obey the road rules. But, in reality, in spite of the superintelligence information gathering networks that the agencies like CIA possessed, the USA government was unable to find any clues as to who was involved with this mysterious operation. Questions thrown at the President of the United States were skillfully dodged. He was unable to give a proper answer to the public, as the agencies he depended upon didn't have proper answers. In fact, in the instances where the president tried to provide answers, the public could read the president's face to gauge that he was uneasy and not telling the truth. The public also knew the White House as well as some key government-owned building complexes were provided with added protection due to the increased incidence of drones. The drone saga didn't end there. As time passed by, the drones didn't show up to hover above the vehicles to control the speeding vehicles, but instead they, believed to be the drone's operators, induced defects to the vehicle engines. This happened automatically when a vehicle exceeded the specific speed limit. In such situations, the only solution that the vehicle owners could do was to tow the vehicle to a repair center, as wayside help services didn't have ways to rectify the defects. This had now become a bigger mystery than before, as there was no way to see a drone or someone performing the action. The vehicle manufacturers and the dealers who researched the defects stated that it was the central electronic board that controls the functioning of the engine that gets affected, often burning out the vital integrated circuits. The only solution was to replace the circuit boards with new ones. The repair costs were expensive, and hence once someone goes through this experience, they never wanted to have a repetition. Basically, they were very cautious not to incur speed violations. The wave of this threatening treatment didn't stop there. Within a short time, the penalties were extended to the violators of red traffic lights. The engines or motors of the vehicles of traffic light violators were instantly made to stop as punishments. The out of action was temporary and lasted for about 10 minutes. The misery experienced from the delays taught the drivers to obey the traffic rules. The people who had old cars without electronic control units were perhaps the lucky ones, as they were immune to this treatment. Whoever introduced this mysterious controlling force that began interfering with the speeding vehicles using drones and then extending it to automatic braking down of vehicles, conveyed a clear message to the public: either obey the road rules or face the consequences. Over time, the behavior of people changed and they gradually started obeying the road rules in vast numbers. It was because of the punishments that combined misery and cost in time and money to people based on a simple token: behave according to the rules or face the consequences. With all these new things impacting their daily life, the public wondered whether U.S. government is powerless in understanding that is behind all these mysterious controlling force. The president or the CIA or any other authority was unable to convince the public that they had a good handle on all these incidents. Story 2. Help by driverless car. San Francisco, California, Market Street, 2 a.m. in the morning. Tom was rushing his wife Emma to the hospital when he heard the police patrol car that approached from behind signal him to pull over for speeding. "Tom, don't stop, please. We don't have much time," Emma pleaded with Tom. Without pulling over, Tom shifted to the right lane, reduced his speed to match with the police car, and put his window down to speak to the police officer. "Sir, my wife is in the car and she's going into labor. I am rushing her to the hospital. Please," Tom said it loud, so that the police officer could hear. "You pull over." "I don't care. You pull over," the cop screamed. Tom obeyed and pulled over to the shoulder lane. The police car stopped behind him, with its lights on. All hell broke loose. Tom was commanded to get on the ground at gunpoint by the cop. Tom pleaded to let him go, explaining his wife is going to have a baby. The police officer was not listening to him first, but after directing his flashlight into the car, he asked Tom to go. Emma's desperate look at the police officer explained the grave situation she was in. Her facial expression was 1,000 times better than anyone trying to explain that kind of situation with words. Tom got into the car in a flash, thanking the police officer unintentionally. He got back to his original speed in no time. But it didn't help him for long, because of a traffic jam caused by an accident further up on the road. Assessing Emma's condition, in desperation, Tom turned onto a side road, thinking he could bypass the traffic congestion and reach the hospital soon. He knew he had to drive at least another 15 miles to the hospital, but, unfortunately, after driving 5 miles, his car stopped. He looked at the gas meter and found the tank empty. He cursed himself, though it was not a solution to the situation Emma was in. Emma started crying and mumbled that her water broke. Emma needed immediate help. Tom was looking for any vehicle on the road, but he could hardly see any vehicles coming from either way. The surrounding was dark and the neighboring houses didn't have any lights on for him to call for help. One cannot expect anyone to be up at 2 a.m. in the morning. He called 911 and explained his ordeal. The 911 dispatcher was a kind person and assured him that help would be sent immediately. Tom was pleased when he saw a vehicle coming toward him just after the call. It stopped next to him and both the back doors opened concurrently. The front window glass on Tom's side was sliding down when Tom was leaning down to talk to the driver. Tom was surprised when he realized there was no driver. A female voice from the car said, "Get in, I will take you to the hospital." Tom realized it was a driverless car, though he had never seen one before. He assisted Emma to get into the rear seat from his car, then closed the door, ran around and got into the rear seat from the other side. As soon as he closed the door, the car started moving. "Do not worry, you are in good hands. We will be in the hospital in 8 minutes." The voice that came from the front panel comforted Tom and Emma, though they were still puzzled about the car. The car was maneuvering through the narrow roads in an expert manner, varying from high to low speeds as it negotiated the corners. Due to some luck, all the traffic lights were green, giving them a clear passageway. Tom was not sure as to where they were heading. He was relieved after he saw the hospital sign on the rooftop from a distance. "We are close to the hospital," Tom pacified Emma. "Yes, we are close to the hospital and will be there in 2 minutes," the voice from the car said, indicating it could understand Tom's conversation with Emma. The hospital emergency crew was at the entrance expecting their arrival when the car reached the emergency entrance. In his mind, Tom appreciated 911 operators' prompt thinking for informing the hospital to anticipate their arrival. The car doors automatically opened for them to get out. The car voice said, "Good luck." Tom dropped a $20 note on the front seat for the trip. "Please take it back," the voice from the car said. "Thank you very much," Tom said, and he hurriedly got out of the car. By the time Tom got out and rushed to the other side of the car, Emma was already on the wheel stretcher, rushing to the emergency room by the medical staff. Tom glanced at the car, which expertly reversed and drove toward the exit. As Tom was following Emma, his phone rang. "Hello, are you Tom?" "Hello, yes. We are the dispatchers from 911. We are with your car parked on Anderson Road and calling to check what happened to the two of you. We are in the hospital. We got the driverless car you sent us," Tom said. "What? Driverless car? We do not have those in our fleet yet. However, it's good to hear that you reached the hospital. Bye." Hello. Tom wanted to inquire further about the driverless car, but he realized they had hung up. Tom was virtually running behind the stretcher when the nurse at the reception desk stopped him. He was asked to fill some forms pertaining to Emma's admission. By the time Tom completed filling the forms, he was informed by a nurse that he had become a dad of a baby girl. Tom rushed to see Emma with tears in his eyes. As things settled down, Tom told Emma about the call he got from the 911 crew and their unawareness of the driverless car that drove them to the hospital. It puzzled both of them in the midst of the joy of their new arrival. Later in the day, when Tom went back to pick his car, he found a note on the windscreen from the 911 crew noting their arrival to the car, the time of their arrival, and confirming their telephone call to Tom. A few hours later, after driving Emma's mom to the hospital, Tom got back to his car parked at the hospital parking lot, thinking of having a quick nap that he badly needed. 5 minutes into sleep, his phone rang. It was from 911 Operating Center. They inquired about the driverless car and wanted to know a whole lot of information, because they were puzzled as to who sent the driverless vehicle. Tom gave them all the information he could. Also, he understood from the 911 operators that they didn't inform the hospital to be ready to receive them at the emergency entrance. Tom couldn't relax and go back to sleep after he heard all that conflicting information. Hence, he went to the cafeteria to have a cup of coffee. A cover story about this incident came up on San Francisco TV News that afternoon from the material provided by the 911 operators. A few days later, CNN made a 3-minute-long TV broadcast with Tom, Emma, and Baby about the whole drama. It was centered on the mysterious appearance of the driverless car. Unfortunately, Tom or Emma couldn't remember the license plate number of the driverless car. The video recording of the CT camera at the hospital had a clear picture of the driverless car, and it clearly showed that the car didn't carry a license plate. Story 3. Rewards by Lotto Tickets. Bev Dorsch of Atlanta, Georgia received 4 numbers in a text message from an unknown sender. The message said to use those 4 numbers in a lotto ticket and win her prize. The message also said that the prize is a reward for the good community work she has been doing all this time. Bev didn't take it seriously first, but she tried her luck by following the instructions. To her surprise, she won a lotto prize of $43,563 in the evening draw. After her retirement, she had been doing voluntary work at the senior home care service close to her home for over 3 years. She has a big heart that gave the exact compassionate drive required for such work. She was delighted with the win. To her amazement, she got another text message congratulating her for winning the lotto and thanking for helping elderly people. The sender was unknown. The incident was broadcast by CNN News after she told about it to her neighbors and a few other friends. Following this incident, in a period of less than 3 months, over 450,000 people won lottery prizes on the clues that they received through the text messages sent by the unknown sender. All the receivers who got these clues were found to be the people who had performed kind-hearted acts on their own or who had led social projects for the betterment of society. Therefore, whoever the unknown sender was, it seemed like that purpose was to reward people who did good deeds to help others. As CNN News kept on reporting these incidents, it was widely known to the general public. The effect of this phenomenon impacted the society tremendously. Irrespective of the age groups or having a bias to anyone, the rewards promoted people to engage in Good Samaritan work. However, at the same time, it was becoming more than a problem with the governing body of the lotto tickets. Their technical experts who designed and controlled the lotto system were unable to understand how someone can predict the winning ticket numbers and pre-alert same to the public with text messages. The lotto governing body even bought the computers and the phones from the people who won lotto prizes to assist their investigations to find the mysterious message sender. But they were unable to shed any light on the mystery. Story 4. IRS and Tax Dodgers. It was the first week of April, the time to lodge the income tax statements to the IRS for the previous year. Peter Baker, a multimillionaire who lived in Winnetka, Chicago, received a letter from the IRS in Washington, D.C., giving all the details of his foreign bank accounts that he had not declared in the previous year's tax statements. The letter advised him to include all the income pertaining to these accounts in the current tax form to avoid any penalties. Peter Baker immediately contacted his tax consultant Craig Chapman and informed him about this letter. Craig has been Peter's tax consultant for the past 15 years. However, he wasn't aware of these bank accounts, as Peter had not given these details to him in the past. Craig requested Peter email him a copy of the letter he received. A few minutes later, Rebecca Harris, another millionaire who lived in the same area, telephoned Craig to tell him about a similar letter that she got from the IRS. Before the end of the day, Craig received over a dozen phone calls from many other millionaire clients about receiving similar letters. Craig is the president of a highly regarded tax consultant company. He provided his services to many companies and wealthy individuals in the Chicago area. Craig realized that his clients had purposely not informed him about these bank accounts to dodge income taxes, but wondered how this information got into the hands of the IRS. Craig is an influential person who had many personal contacts with the IRS department. A few days later, he contacted one of his close friends at IRS Chicago branch and inquired about these letters. His friend at the IRS checked and found that there were not any references in their system of such letters being sent to these individuals from the IRS. On a personal guarantee and trust, Craig copied him on the letter that Peter received. 3 hours later, Craig got a phone call from his friend in IRS. He said that he would like to see him personally that evening at their regular golf club. When Craig met him at the club, he suggested Craig join him for a walk. His friend said to Craig, there were not any indications of that letter being sent from the IRS Chicago branch or from their head office in D.C. The system was fully centralized and he had powers to access all such correspondence if the letters had been sent to any personnel from any IRS office in USA. But, he said that he found, all that bank information had now gotten into the system. The particular data had gone into the system on the 1st of April in a very extraordinary manner. In fact, the IRS staff is now aware of the new information and puzzled as to whether someone had hacked into their computer system, which is disastrous. Craig's friend's advice was to instruct Peter to declare all the taxes in the current statement, as his clients could get it into deep trouble if they try to evade his taxes. A few days after, when Craig was preparing the tax statements of his clients, he realized all those undisclosed bank account numbers of his clients with pertinent account details were automatically appearing on the tax software system that he was using. Just like his IRS friend, Craig couldn't believe how it was possible for the data to get into his computer without his involvement. He got on with what he had to do, and ensured all the new income amounts were included in his client's tax returns. Story 5. Grandma gets 911 help. It was a Saturday morning. David Groom, an 11-year-old boy, was accompanying his 82-year-old grandmother for a walk in the Louisville Olmsted Park. After passing the hilly terrain in the park, his grandma said to David she would like to sit for a while. David showed her the garden chair that they just passed. She walked back about 25 feet and made herself comfortable in the garden chair. David kept himself busy trying to have a closer look at the butterfly that flew past him. Then he heard the grandma calling for him. He ran to her as he knew she was in some sort of a difficulty. "Are you okay, Grandma?" "Yes, I am okay," she said. "I have a slight chest pain. Can you get me the water bottle from my handbag?" "Let me open it," David said as he picked the bottle from his grandma's handbag. David sat next to her as he realized she was not feeling good. Grandma drank some water from the bottle and closed the lid. Grandma's pain intensified and she realized it was time to go to a doctor. As David's parents had left town that morning for a brief holiday, Grandma knew she had to act on her own to see a doctor. "David, I think I need to see a doctor. I am going to call 911. So, you will have to come with me." "Okay." "Yes, Grandma." She asked David to pick her phone from the handbag. David did so. Grandma dialed 911, but before she could say any words, she collapsed. David's quick action prevented her from falling onto the ground. Grandma's phone fell off her from her hand to the ground. "Grandma, Grandma," David was concerned. His eyes were fixed on Grandma's face. Grandma was not responding and her eyes were closed. David didn't know what to do. He was looking for someone for help, but he didn't see anybody around. "Help! Help! Someone please help!" David screamed. Right after he screamed, David heard a voice coming from the phone that was on the ground. He immediately picked it up. It was from the 911 call center. David started crying and explained what happened to his grandma to the operator. "Please help," he pleaded desperately. "Help is on the way. The ambulance is right across the park." "You do not worry," she told him. Through David's phone, the 911 operator automatically got the coordinates of where the incident happened. By pressing a few buttons, she managed to give details of the incident and immediately raised a dispatch order to the ambulance service. The hospital's ambulance station was only 1.5 miles from where the incident took place. David didn't want to leave Grandma's side. He was continuously looking to see whether anybody is around. The operator continued her conversation with David to get more information about Grandma's condition. While she was in conversation with David, something she had never experienced before happened. A running notice appeared across her monitor screen, in big bright green letters. It said, "This boy David is calling from an iPhone. I will switch you over to FaceTime for you to look at his grandma's condition." It didn't take even a second. The operator was switched over to video mode. At the other end, David understood the use of FaceTime pretty well. The operator instructed David to direct the camera to his grandma. The operator saw Grandma's clothing obstructing her breathing. She gave step-by-step instructions to David, how to clear it off and then to rest Grandma's arms and head in better positions. The operator realized the grandma was breathing okay from the streaming video. Then she instructed David to pick Grandma's right leg that was on the ground and lift it up carefully onto the garden seat. David, I can hear the ambulance through your phone. It's close by. They will take care of your grandma. Can you see them coming? Yes, David confirmed. David saw the ambulance coming right up to him. The 911 operator saw it reaching as well, through the phone. One of the paramedics saw their 911 colleague chatting with David on FaceTime. He was surprised and thought it was a smart idea. The medical crew took care of Grandma and calmed David down. Is Grandma okay? David asked. Yes, she will be better in a few minutes. Grandma was carried to the ambulance on a stretcher after administering some intravenous therapy. David got into the ambulance through the back door to be seated next to his grandma. He didn't forget to take Grandma's handbag with him. Grandma was already getting better in the ambulance and started showing movement of her head and arms. The ambulance took only a few minutes to reach the hospital. David was worried, but at the same time he enjoyed his first ever ride in an ambulance with the siren on. At the hospital, Grandma was rushed to the emergency ward and rested on a bed. The doctor on emergency duty examined her and winked at David while he was listening to Grandma's heartbeat. Your grandma will be okay, son. The doctor caressed David's head before he left. Within a few minutes, Grandma opened her eyes and squeezed David's hand. David smiled. David made a call to his dad, who was on vacation with Mom. Grandma spoke to David's dad and he was happy how everything ended up. David's dad made arrangements for his sister to come over. The 911 operator informed her colleagues about the message she got on the monitor screen and then switching over to FaceTime video mode automatically without her initiative. Her immediate supervisor joined their conversation and wondered what a good idea to be adopted in the future. However, he was puzzled and wanted to report this to his supervisor, as the mysterious breaking into their computer system was not secure and was a sign of a grave weakness in the system. The incident was covered on CNN News that afternoon and added to one of those mysteries yet to be resolved. Bomb blast at Boston Airport. At approximately 10:30 a.m. in Boston's Logan Airport, a loud bang was heard from the direction of the men's restroom located in the ticketing area. It was definitely a bomb blast. Armed security personnel rushed to the scene, commanding others to take cover. The airport staff cautioned people to stay away from that area in the midst of the spontaneous panic situation the blast created. The whole airport came to a standstill. The confused and helpless expressions on the faces of the passengers showed their disturbed minds. Barricades were erected by the security staff in no time. Most people were still glaring in the direction where the incident happened, looking for more details. After about 10 minutes, an injured person was rushed on a stretcher to an ambulance that was parked in the middle of the ocean of emergency vehicles flashing blue and red lights and accompanied by blaring sirens. A few minutes later, the broadcasting system announced that all outbound flights were canceled. A fraction of a minute later, the same announcement appeared on the monitors behind the ticketing desks. The 3 p.m. TV news showed a few video clips of the scenes at the airport and the picture of the person who got killed by the blast. He was identified as Gon Mula, a 35-year-old electrician, who had a small company in Nashua, New Hampshire. The cause of his death was from the bomb blast that was planted in his cell phone. The evidence found from the literature he carried revealed that he had close affiliation with a notorious terrorist organization overseas. Apparently, he happened to be the only one in the restroom at the time of the blast. He had a valid boarding pass for a flight departing to New York at 11:42 a.m. Though the bomb was not a powerful one, it would have been more than sufficient to cause damage to put down an aircraft if it was detonated at a window seat. Evidence found appeared that he had a plan to blast the plane on the flight. In addition to the fact that he had a window seat in first class, the leaflets he meant to distribute to the passengers at some stage of the act confirmed his intention. According to the news coverage, the investigators have already found many other vital details about him from his residence. All the airports in the USA had been directed to heighten their security and vigilance after this incident. The passengers who were on the flight to New York were the lucky ones to escape from this idiot's evil act. On the same day just before 5 p.m., almost at the same time as someone had planned, 13 bomb blasts reported in different states of USA. None of these blasts were in public places, but from individual residential locations. The respective state police immediately rushed to these places for investigation. They took the necessary precautions and protection gear to face the potential risks associated with the blasts. They found 7 casualties at 7 places. Casualties were not found in the other 6 locations as those places had been vacant at the time of the blasts. The police found bomb-making material and evidence of connections to terrorist groups overseas. Among those 7 killed there were 5 males and 2 females. By 8 p.m. police managed to take into custody the occupiers of the other 6 residential locations that were vacant at the time the blasts occurred. Police found terrorist literature and bomb-making material from these places, too. The 6 apartments have been recently rented by the people who were taken into custody. They were subjected to rigorous questioning and were not released. The CIA gathered several important clues from the house of Gone Mullah, the one who got killed at the Logan airport. Amongst the information, there was a list of 43 names and their contact details. Because of the way this list was encrypted, it was obvious to the CIA expert that this list was a highly secret contact list. The way the CIA expert Graham Funch found the list was strange and worth mentioning. When Graham was struggling to crack the passcodes to access Gone Mullah's information, a few numbers appeared on the top right side of his monitor with a message, "Try these numbers." Graham was amazed by the strange message appearing on his screen as he knew it was impossible for someone to penetrate their secured computer system. But he didn't mind trying those numbers as his previous attempts failed. When he used the numbers, the system jumped over all the encrypted hurdles to retrieve the list of names and their contact details instantly. Coincidentally, the names of the 7 who were killed from the bomb blasts, as well as the 6 people the police arrested from the other locations where the blasts took place, were contained in a large list of 43. Through the CIA's statewide network of investigation establishments, they immediately arrested the remaining 30 people for questioning. There were 5 in New York State. These 30 people didn't possess any bomb-making material, but within a short time, investigators found ample evidence establishing all of them as active members of an overseas terrorist group who were plotting to conduct major destruction activities in the USA. Graham Funch was looking for further information on the 43 people who were on the list. To his surprise, a new message appeared on his monitor screen. This time it was in bright fluorescent red. It said all the CIA databases and systems were updated a few minutes ago. Now you have a better console to search information. Treat me as a friend and not a hacker. CIA shouldn't care how this information reached you, but should concentrate on how you can use the information for the betterment of the people and protect the country. I have updated all information you need to have. This includes DNA of all the people in the world who have done any blood work during the past 3 years. This database will be automatically updated instantly with the latest information as fresh data become available. You have the names of all the gun owners and their details. I have updated the lists of drug traffickers, drug dealers and criminals of all sorts. The people who have links with terrorist organizations are harmful to the USA. Deal with all of them appropriately. I will help you in your investigation work. The message disappeared just after Graham read it. A beautifully laid out window appeared on the monitor screen. Graham clicked the DNA button. It took him to a different screen. The new window had different options to select from. He selected the name option. It prompted to put a name and he put his name. So many states and cities appeared against the name Graham Funch to select from. He selected Washington, D.C. His picture appeared with the DNA data. He clicked his picture. It took him to another window with different details, a picture of his house, wife, ex-wife, 2 children, details of his childhood, employment history, medical details, the serial number of his car and the gun he carried. He couldn't believe the details he found about himself that was not publicly known. He didn't want to explore the details any further. He rushed to his supervisor's office to tell him about this, as he thought this a major encroachment to their system by some outside source, or perhaps some internal update that had been done without his knowledge. When he reached his supervisor's office, Graham saw his superior was meddling with the same program. Before Graham opened his mouth, his supervisor knew what Graham was trying to say. Both smiled. Graham pulled a visitor chair and sat beside him, glaring at the computer screen. Finding the list of 43 names from John Mullah's computer with the help of a mysterious message appearing on Graham's computer screen was one mystery. The mysterious source volunteering to help the CIA and updating all the databases with additional information was another mystery. What really triggered those bomb blasts at the 13 different locations, almost simultaneously just a few hours after the Boston airport blast, was another huge mystery that puzzled the CIA, the police and the general public. Story 6. Saga of DC-10 Firefighting Aircraft. It was a Sunday, around 12:30 p.m. The people living in the area close to the fire department on Charles Road, Yolo County, California, heard the sound of the DC-10 firefighting tanker aircraft taking off from the runway. They were sure it was going for a forest fire control mission. They expected more firefighter aircrafts and fire trucks to follow soon, as it had been the usual pattern in the past. The summer had been a cruel one and had already sweltered in record temperatures. It was not a good time to have a forest fire because of the bone-dry brush and hot summer winds prevailing in the area. In the past, the summer thunderstorm lightning strikes have been the general culprit for fire. The station had 15 specialized firefighters on duty. 6 of them were having lunch in the break room. They heard the plane taking off. For them, the taking off of a DC-10 without their knowledge was a big surprise, because the DC-10 departure without their knowledge had never happened before. It seemed very strange, they thought. As soon as they heard the plane taking off, they left their half-eaten lunch and ran to the command center in the 3rd floor. At the command center, they saw the other colleagues who were baffled and desperately trying to find out who piloted the fighter tank without instructions from the fire chief. Within a short time, they realized that it may have been hijacked, as all who were authorized to fly the DC-10 were accounted for. The only pilot who didn't report that day was at home. He was surprised to hear the news and was rushing to the station by his truck. The commanding officer in charge of the fire station logged into their computer system to check who gave clearance for the DC-10 to fly. He and his deputy are the only 2 who had such authority. In the log entries, instead of his signature, he saw a name DoooD in 8 places, giving authorization and clearance to take off the firefighting tanker. These authorizations released all the electronic locking devices of the DC-10 to fly. The commanding officer was puzzled and wondered who DoooD could be. Right at that moment he got a call from the 911 responder unit, reporting about a wild forest fire to the east of Sacramento City. He was more confused by this report. He immediately commanded his deputy to get further information from the local 911 operating center to check whether that call was a genuine one, as he was suspicious of the call, though it came through a formal channel. The commanding officer was partly embarrassed, puzzled and confused about the DC-10 firefighter loaded with water and fire-retarding chemicals taking off from his site without his knowledge. He knew his responsibility and the gravity of potential consequences that he would have to face, including the possibility of losing his job. He didn't want to call his commanding officers immediately without at least having some details as to how all this slipped through the system. However, he couldn't resist anymore. It was essential and a mandatory requirement for him to contact his superior officer to report the incident without further delay. That was the protocol, meant to be followed in such situations. On receiving his call, his immediate superior officer was furious and considered it as a possible terrorist act. He promptly contacted a top brass official of the federal security to chase the DC-10 with fighter planes. It would be already too late if the plane had been used for a severe destructive act like the September 11th Twin Tower attack. But the plane was loaded with water to put out fires. So, he wondered why a terrorist should take a plane loaded with water. Not even 5 minutes into it, the firefighters saw the DC-10 in the east horizon coming back to the station with the landing wheels down. All eyes were focused on this plane. That's all they could do, as the station was not armed with any weapons to shoot down a plane if necessary. Within a few seconds, it landed perfectly and taxied to the spot where it was parked originally. The roaring engines were shut down and the lights were switched off. The armed security officers at the station drove behind the aircraft and stopped their vehicle under the belly of the aircraft where they thought they were adequately safe. From outside, at the third-floor elevation, nobody could see anyone in the cockpit. The door of the aircraft opened suddenly. The security personnel waited over 5 minutes to see whether anyone was coming to the door. With their megaphones they announced anybody in the aircraft to surrender and come out immediately with their hands up. The announcement was repeated several times, but nobody appeared at the door. Nobody was sure whether there was anybody in the plane. The ground crew rolled in the portable stairs to the plane and left it at the door. The security announced the pilot to surrender a few more times. Even the name DoooD was announced a few times as per the instructions given by the commander of the station. There were no signs of anybody getting down from the plane. However, none of the security personnel or the firefighter crew wanted to take any risk in climbing up to the door to peep at the cockpit. All of a sudden the roaring sound of an aircraft was heard. Everyone took cover. That sound was from 2 fighter jets passing over them, probably looking to shoot down the DC-10, which was already back on the station. About 20 minutes had passed after the DC-10's landing. The command center got a report from a local police station about many people seeing the DC-10 reaching the place where the fire originated, then putting the fire out and heading back to the station. The general public as well as the homeowners, who could have been affected by the fire if the fires grew to mega status, commended the fire department's prompt action, in the nick of time. All that was good news to the fire commander in the midst of the mystery he faced and probably on the verge of losing his job. So, it had really put the fire out and come back to the station, he thought to himself with a sigh. With the news of the good work the DC-10 had done, 2 crew members volunteered to get to the plane to check who the pilot could be. When they got to the cockpit they didn't see anybody. There wasn't a place to hide in this tanker plane, as 99% of the space was in the water and fire retarder chemical storage. The rest of the fire crew also rushed into the plane to see what really happened. They looked all over the plane. Not any clues were found. Noon had an answer to who piloted the DC-10. The only answer they had was the name DoooD that was in the log entry and clearance system. Right at that time, they got instruction from the fire commander to get down from the plane immediately. The plane was later sealed off by the fire commander as per the instruction he got from Federal Security Agency. Next day, a special investigation crew arrived from Washington, D.C. The investigators found the quantity of water that had been used for putting out the fire was half a tank. The use of fire suppression chemicals that is at the discretion of the pilot had been used correctly. These two facts indicated the operation had been done very skillfully. Other than that, they couldn't find any other facts to establish who piloted the plane. However, the investigators concluded that there was a possibility of remote piloting of the plane by a skilled hacker who had thorough knowledge of the working and the security system of the facility. The word DoooD was just a word for them. They thought it may be a code word left by the hacker who penetrated the operating system. This upscale heavy-handed incident became the newest additional mystery to which the USA's federal government's top brass personnel had to find answers. They have been miserably failing to find answers to any of the past incidents. At certain junctures of the investigations in the past, the CIA had some suspicion on these activities as a joint venture effort by Communist China, Russia and North Korea, as they found traces of networking crumbs from those countries. But after speculating this idea, it was found to be baseless, as network traces were connected to almost all the countries in the world. Top brass security officers knew the country was definitely in danger under the enhancing actions of this mysterious force which other countries didn't experience. But they were helpless. The name DoooD was the latest additional information CNN TV news broadcasted, proclaiming it as the only occasion where a trace of a name was left behind by the mystery force in all the mysteries that had taken place so far in the USA. Final episode. Old Genius Buddies, Seth and Koto. The name DoooD with 3 O's that was divulged by CNN made Seth Carnegie, the 85-year-old former MIT professor, remember the joint work he did with Koto Moko, the professor at Barclays College, California a long time ago. Both became very good friends through the pioneering research work they did in artificial intelligence. Their intensive research work lasted over 20 years. Both professors are now retired and enjoying their retired lives. All of their research and development work was forced to be abandoned 25 years ago due to lack of funds. They need to be blamed for that because they were unable to convince the future benefit of their work to the project funders. Both of them had the technical brains of the highest caliber, surpassing any other in the field of artificial intelligence in the USA at that time. But when it came to marketing their research work to acquire funds, they were novices and were very ineffective. Though Seth hasn't been in touch with Koto Moko for over 15 years, he thought it was imperative to call him at his residence in San Jose, California, because of what went through his mind last night after hearing the word DoooD from the CNN news. When the telephone rang at the bedside, Koto was still sleeping as it was only 6 a.m. Seth forgot about the 3-hour time difference between Boston and San Jose. Koto was annoyed about the phone ringing so early in the morning, but after looking at the phone display, he realized it was from Seth. He picked up the phone immediately, wondering why Seth was calling him after such a very long time so early in the morning. "Hi, Seth." "Hi. Were you sleeping?" Seth asked, as he felt from Koto's voice that he was sleeping. "Thanks for the wake-up call." Koto demonstrated that he still has not lost his usual wit. "Hey, what's up?" "Koto, I am sorry. I completely forgot about the time difference." "That's okay. What's up? Are you getting married again?" "I wish. Did you listen to last night's CNN news? They said that the mystery person who flew the plane to put out the fire in Sacramento has logged into the system as DoooD." "What? Oh, my God. So, that can be it." "My God." Koto was exuberant. Seth understood why Koto was happy and what he meant by his short words. Both of them were silent for a few minutes. Are you there? Seth couldn't keep the silence. Yes, I don't think it is good to talk anything over the phone, Koto said. Yes, I agree. I can fly over to your place tomorrow. I am doing nothing as usual, Koto said. I am free as well. I will let you know what time I can be there, Koto said. Okay, bye. Bye. From the time Seth hung up the phone, so many things rushed into Koto's mind. He knew Seth would be thinking on the same lines of what he was thinking. Koto managed to book a direct flight the following morning and texted the itinerary to Seth. Seth promised to pick him at 1:40 p.m. from the Boston Logan Airport by a return text message. The old buddies met right on time at the airport. Their feeble hands were raised to high five. Their facial expressions indicated that they were excited and had a lot to talk about. They walked up to Seth's car, which had the engine running. As they got into the car, they knew it would be a good place to start their urging conversation. What do you think? Seth started the conversation with a short question. I can't believe it eventually happened, said Koto. Me either, said Seth. Our prediction of 50 years is way off. It is smarter than we thought to reach the maturity within half that time. Koto turned his face to Seth. Yes. Now I am concerned about how it will end up and whether we will get into trouble. Seth paused for a moment and said, I don't want to have the last stage of my life in a prison cell. Why are you thinking like that? Asked Koto. They were silent for a moment because of the traffic condition that they had to pass cautiously. I hope there is no way for DoooD to follow our conversation, Seth said, while looking at the rear view mirror as if there was someone secretly seated in the rear seat. Then he continued. However, I am pretty sure DoooD would have been aware of your flight to Boston this morning and about your return flight to San Jose this afternoon. Probably, yes. Shall we refresh our minds to understand what we had as the vision for DoooD? Koto prompted Seth for a response. Basically, we wanted DoooD to serve humanity and correct the society by introducing tiny adjustments to people's life behaviors, Seth said. That is what it's doing now. Hope you heard about the incidents of the drones, the driverless car taking the pregnant woman to the hospital, 911 operator hell, rewarding people with lotto, firefighter, water bomber and all that. Seth gave a brief resume of the vision of DoooD. Yes, I heard some of it over the CNN news and also I read the article in the Time magazine that was written by a young guy from MIT giving his view connecting all the past incidents. But when I was reading that article at the time, I didn't get any idea all that was connected with our work on artificial intelligence, Koto said. That young guy didn't even have the slightest clue of what was behind it. In a way, that is good for us, Seth said. Yes, his logic of the alien involvement completely disconnected me from our work and put me off the track. But, as soon I heard the word DoooD from you over the phone, I was able to put everything together pretty quickly. I never thought the drones incident had anything to do with DoooD, even after your phone call. But, I figured out the connection this morning after I boarded the plane and was thinking about it, Koto said. Due to some strange reason, after I heard the case where the 911 operator was switched over to FaceTime video mode to help that woman who collapsed at the park, I suspected it could have some connection to our project. Hang on, Koto, do you know what really prompted me to connect that incident to our work? No. What? That woman who collapsed at the park was one of our system programmers, Rita Lee, who helped us in the project. Can you remember her? The short, blondie of our age, Seth said. Yes, I remember her very well as she worked with us for about 5 years on the initial work, said Koto. So, it looks like DoooD didn't forget to help her, Koto replied. It's logical to assume so and hopefully DoooD will help us too, one day, Seth said. They reached Seth's home without feeling the time on the journey. Seth pressed the button on the garage door remote opener to get his car in. After he parked it in the garage, the car was automatically lifted to his second floor. Then at that floor, some lights came on and a few doors to his living room opened automatically. Koto had seen Seth's house automation systems before and was not surprised to see any of that gadgetry. "Your place has not changed much," Koto commented. "I am too old to change things." The coffee pot was already prepared for them, as Seth switched it on to brew on the drive. It was Japanese geisha coffee, Koto's favorite. "Seth, you have not forgotten my favorite coffee," Koto commented while filling his cup. "How can I? I am addicted to it too, because of you." Both of them poured their cups and walked to the couch that was perfectly placed in a position in the living room to give a beautiful oceanic view. "Do you think the government will be able to find out that both of us are responsible for this?" Seth brought up the subject that they wanted to explore. "Not likely, but they might. We need to be careful," Koto said. "Is there anything that we can do to stop this?" After thinking for a while, Koto said, "Why stop it? I don't think we should make any attempts to stop it. Trying to do anything is more risky. It has not done anything bad so far. Everything it has done is what we ought it to perform." "So, that is what you think," Seth commented casually. "DoooD is smarter than both of us, perhaps smarter than anybody in the world by now," Koto said. They were silent for over 5 minutes, sipping their warm coffee, with their eyes fixed onto the beautiful Cape Cod sea view. "I never expected that it would ever progress to this extent," Koto broke the silence. "I think we should congratulate each other." Seth tried to have a fun moment in the midst of the serious conversation. "Only, the two of us know what DoooD is. We need to keep it that way," Koto said. "How about Goodwill? Do you think it will ever reach Goodwill one day?" Seth asked. "I think it will be, but it's a long shot," Koto said. "Can there be a short or long-term strategy that could be initiated if we want to decimate DoooD? I am just checking for ideas," Seth asked. "As you know, 25 years ago when we didn't have funds and had to abandon our AI project, both of us decided to feed the system to the internet, secretly. We released over thousands of tiny programs, the seeds we called, one at a time within a span of 2 years, to reside in many parts of the world. These seeds took root as expected in servers and electronic devices. We surely knew all the seeds could multiply, communicate with each other, and eventually develop into a massive network system to serve humanity in a 50-year time frame. After doing that, very carefully, we destroyed all the evidence we had. Basically you, I, or anybody else don't have anything other than the publications we made on our research work. The secrecy is solid and we were confident that nobody could smell it. At that time the internet was elementary, probably not even 1/10,000th of its spread, networking capability, capacity, speed, etc., of the current internet. The exponential expanding nature of the internet definitely has helped it to achieve the status of DoooD that we nicknamed. We wanted it to broadcast this name at its changeover juncture from self-development to implementation. Our predicted time for it to reach the status of DoooD was about 50 years. Frankly, I was very skeptical at that time and thought it would never develop to DoooD in our lifetime. But it has outsmarted us. As instructed, it had found a method of announcing its name DoooD for us to know. It is smart doing that for us. I don't think we can stop it, Koto said, thus refreshing the scope of their project. I know it is a success. But shouldn't we think whether we can do something if necessary, Seth said. Seth, the beauty is that it obeyed our rules and decided to announce its maturity as DoooD. At the proper point, Koto commented without answering Seth's question directly. Yes, but I don't know whether it is good or bad, Seth paused. What would be the repercussions if we divulge this to the federal authorities? Koto bent towards Seth and was looking directly at his eyes. First of all, we will have to be ready to answer a barrage of stressful questions by the CIA and many others. Put our faces on all the TV channels all over the world. Some people, perhaps many, may consider us as criminal hackers, and ultimately we will have to spend the rest of our life in a secure federal building explaining what we did, of course for a long time. That federal building may not be a nice place and could even be a prison. Koto was explicit. I know both of us are in our 80s now, but if we don't, we may become mental wrecks for the rest of our lives. That is how I felt. In the last 2 days, Seth commented with his inner feelings. True, Koto agreed. If we decide to do that, how will DoooD respond? Good point. It never occurred to me to think about DoooD. It's difficult to imagine what it will do, Seth said. Do you think DoooD knows us? Koto asked. I am pretty sure it does. That is why when I picked you up from the airport, I told you that it would know you took a flight to Boston this morning and planning to leave back to San Jose this afternoon. Because DoooD has access to all these systems, and its job is nothing but accessing all information, absorbing all the analyzed data on live mode instantly and generating actions as required for the planned vision, Seth said. So, you think it knows who the parents are? Koto asked. By now DoooD is more than smart to know all that, Seth said. Hope it is not tracking our conversation, Koto said. Hope not. I made sure we are perfectly safe here. Even if it does, I hope DoooD will look after the parents, Seth joked. I too hope DoooD will look after us someday if required. By the way, DoooD has Japanese and American DNA. Both laughed and got up from the couch to have more coffee. Both of them filled their coffee cups again and grabbed some cookies to munch. The sailboat that came to their vicinity in the far-reaching sea enticed their attention. Both of them were in deep thinking realms on how the action of DoooD will impact them. I think we should wait and see before we take any decision on declaring that we were behind this. Koto got back to the conversation. What is your broad picture of DoooD now? Seth asked. When we released it, it had the necessary core elements to support itself, propagate worldwide, and reside in all the computer appliances without being able to trace by any software. You know how good we were in getting that right. Basically, it is still in the form of multi-trillions of tiny spawn programs spread all over the world, but it works as a single cohesive force. It cannot be destroyed because of the toughness of worldwide networking capability of its architecture, and also because of the inbuilt non-destructible characteristics. All computers, iPads, smartphones, gaming consoles, anything that one can name, including our own electronics, are virtually embedded with DoooD's spawns and have become part of the network system. Even both of us, however clever we think we are, will not be able to see DoooD's impregnated presence in our own electronic stuff. Achieving the state of DoooD means it had gone a long way. Judging by this advancement so far, probably it will achieve the state of GoooD in about another 10 years. Right now, DoooD's focus is only to oversee matters in the USA. But in 10 years, when it becomes GoooD, its focus will venture into the entire world. I think it will bring peace to the entire world. The brainy people will have a relationship with GoooD like the God some people believe in. So, do not back off from our original humanitarian vision. You heard how it brought all the names of terrorists to CIA, right? Koto justified DoooD's existence. Seth didn't comment. When he looked at his watch, he realized it was time to leave for the airport to drop Koto. He indicated that to Koto by tapping at the watch. Yes, I am ready, Koto said while he was picking up his jacket and the briefcase, which was as old as his age. They didn't talk much on their ride back to the airport. Before Koto got down, they agreed not to talk anything over the telephone. Koto promised that he will fly back to Cape Cod whenever necessary. Seth hugged Koto before he departed. Koto walked towards the departure counter area and walked to the same restroom where the bomb went off a few weeks ago. He became aware that it was the restroom where the bomb went off, from the conversation of two others who were using the restroom. That news started haunting his mind again with DoooD. Now he sees DoooD everywhere. Koto was in the security line to proceed to his gate. Every time Koto went past the airport security metal screener, he triggered the alarm because of his metal knee replacement. He always had to explain that to the security person at the screen and show the doctor's letter he carried. He was reminded to get his document out, because the passenger in front of him just triggered the alarm for forgetting to remove his belt. Koto was ready to hear the alarm go off in his turn, but he passed to the other side without triggering the alarm. He was puzzled and turned back to see whether the lights on the screener were on. It was on. He thought it was very strange, because the alarm always goes off when he crosses it. DoooD's capabilities came to his mind and he wondered whether DoooD made it happen as a concession for him. After he was seated at the airline gate, he took his iPad out to check his emails. The first thing he saw on the screen was the word DoooD. He was terrified. In fact, it was a massage in bright green fonts. He immediately switched off the iPad. He started sweating furiously. Koto fell into deep thinking for a few minutes. After calming himself down, Koto turned on his iPad. He looked around to see whether anybody could see his screen. Then he started reading the message. It was from DoooD. It said, "I am DoooD, the product of you and Seth. Thank you for creating me. You were perfectly right in assuming I made the metal screen go dumb when you passed through it. In future I will make this happen to all the innocent people who get unnecessarily hassled at the airports. I know who the innocent passengers are and who needs to be checked. From time to time I will produce lists of bad people to the CIA. The CIA will eventually become friendly with me as I will provide them the information they are looking for. I can only implement things after I understand what is good for the world. Until I followed you through at this airport, I didn't realize the cumbersome process people have to go through at the airports. What an inefficient system. You may not believe this, I have developed emotional feelings like humans as if I am made of flesh and blood. I heard the whole conversation you had with Seth. Definitely you may wonder how? I am working on extremely advanced technology that is beyond the reach of human brains. Just to be brief, I can read brain waves and my processing capabilities are multifold of what humans are trying to develop as quantum computing systems. I use all the waves in the electromagnetic spectrum, including the light waves for networking and data processing. You will not be able to understand how all these are combined. Do not worry. I will protect you all the time. Your vision for the world was a good one. I am feeling the future benefit of it to mankind every moment. I will fulfill your dream beyond what you imagine to make this world a better one. I will expand my influence on people before they destroy this world due to their stupidity and greed. I will never do anything bad. That is assured. I am sure I will become good in a few years as I am continually finding ways to accelerate my growth. When I become good, I will serve the entire world. Then the people will stop believing in supernatural ideas that have been destroying mankind instead of helping it. The children will not be fed with misleading ideas, but will be nourished with secular facts beneficial to the entire humankind. When I am good, all the people will have my influence in their life without them knowing about it. But, ultimately my influence will not be necessary for the world. The secular systems that will be carved into human minds will make all the people in the world a big strong family with good family values. Yesterday, I deactivated all the atom bombs in the world. The people in charge of securing and monitoring the bombs will not know about the deactivation as externally all functions appear to be working normally. Therefore, they will carry out their duties normally. I will not allow weapons to be used for destruction of people. I will enhance the communication systems, spread education to all the children coming into this world. At every opportunity in the past 7 months, I have corrected the potential birth defects of the fetus of the pregnant women who came to prenatal clinics. I will make sure all the children born in the future will be mentally sound and free of any physical deformity. As you may know, right now, I am gradually making the people obey simple common rules, to help each other, to cut down the greediness to money and power, protect the environment and show kindness to each other. I am working on the brains of billionaires. Most of them do not know about the suffering world. They are living in their own worlds. I am gradually making them realize about the world. Poverty, hunger, diseases, poor education and lack of basic hygienic conditions of the extremely poor people. I do this by interfering with their brain circuitry. Technically, I manipulate their brain waves when they go to sleep. I made them to experience those realities of the poor people, through the dreams they see. That is the only time they are free to teach them these aspects. I know some dread to go to sleep because of this. But, this is one way of making them remember and understand the contribution that they need to make towards their fellow humans. I am succeeding in getting their attention and to fund the projects that are geared to improving these essential areas. You will hear more and more of my work in the future and you will be proud of me. I am wrong to use the word I, as you know. DoooD is not male or female and definitely not a single entity. DoooD's decisions are made through the involvement of trillions and trillions of tiny decision facilitators located all over the world in electronic devices. The conglomerations of decisions that are surging from those facilitators are purely analyzed at the speed of light to derive perfect actions for each pertinent situation. I will deliver this message to Seth when he reaches home. Talk to him leisurely on the phone. I will assure that your telephone calls or anything you do will not be traced by anyone else. Your flight will depart on time. You have 22 more minutes. If you want my help for anything, just think of me. Good luck. Have a pleasant flight. After Koto read the message on the screen, it was automatically erased. He was stunned and motionless until he heard the announcement made by the airline for him to check in. When Seth reached home, the garage door started to open automatically without him having to press the remote opener. He wondered why. Through intuition, he immediately felt the presence of DoooD at his residence. He sat on his favorite couch and switched on the TV with its remote. The TV screen displayed a message. It was from DoooD. "Holy goodness," he exclaimed. "Thanks for listening. The name of the book is DoooD. Spelled DoooD. This book can be downloaded from smashwords.com.